Alright, today we're going to be working on a 2003 Saab Lanier 9.3. Basic tools to change out our struts. Pretty simple. We're going to show you how to do it with very little tools and very little money. So we're going to be doing it ourselves here in the middle of our driveway. We're going to replace the driver's side strut with a brand new strut and brand new mounts and brand new links. Okay, we've gone ahead and removed the front tire. We're jacking it up and getting ready. Let's take a look at the sockets you're going to need. You're going to need an 18mm socket. You're also going to need a 12mm. A 13/32, a 21mm, and also a 19mm socket. And you're also going to need a wrench, a couple of wrenches, 13/16 and a 17mm will do. A set of spring compressors. The 13/16 and a couple of persuasers, so to speak, to, might have to hammer on a thing or two in there. And you're also going to need a star socket. And that is the E12 is what you're going to need to remove these 3 bolts from up top of the strut tower there. Alright, we're going to do a little spraying a little bit of a lubricant in there. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. Some PB Blaster, pretty good stuff to loosen the grime and rust and everything that's built up in these nuts and bolts. So we're going to go ahead and remove the sway bar link, just because I think they should be replaced whenever you replace your struts. And it'd be a lot easier just to remove those, cut them out or whatever, and put some new ones in there. So we're going to go ahead and remove the top nut to the sway bar link. And then we're going to go ahead and go down to the bottom there. And there's another one down here, as you can see on the back side, that we'll have to remove in order to get the sway bar link off. And you're probably going to need one of these some kind of breaker bar, whatever you can find. We just happen to be using part of our jack, just a metal bar. It'll kind of help, breaking these nuts loose, because they've been on there for quite a while. In most cases, they're the original equipment, so you're going to have to put a little torque behind it to get them out of there. All right. It's pretty easy. Just put your ratchet in the front, wrench in the back. Right on the back side of the nut, there is a place where you can set your wrench and go ahead and torque it down, and you'll be able to get it off. They're kind of tough towards the end. You can get them pretty loose, but as they get to the end, for some reason, they get pretty tight. So at some point, if you can't get them out, you can always take a Sawzall to them and cut them right out. Alright, we're going to go ahead and remove the nuts from the sway bar link. We're going to go ahead and finish removing it. Very simple, just like so. And now we're going to go ahead, and you have a couple of lines that need to be disconnected. You got a brake line. You can see the bracket right here that needs to be replaced. Now, in most of these new ones and aftermarket struts sometimes don't have those brackets. You may have to weld your bracket on there or use a zip tie, one of the two. We recommend that you go ahead and weld the bracket back on. And we're going to go ahead and finish that, and we're going to go ahead and start removing the actual strut. Now with the lines removed, the bracket stays in place. We're going to go ahead and remove the two main bolts that hold the strut on. As you can see, you're going to need a breaker bar. They're kind of tough to get loose, but they will pop loose. We'll remove those. And then we'll jump up here to the top and remove these three bolts up at the tower. Okay, we went ahead and removed the nuts on the main bolts for the support of the strut. We're going to go ahead and tap them out. Since they do come to a point, you can kind of tap them right at the very point with a hammer to make sure that you don't destroy the threads on it. And they pop right out just like that. We're going to go ahead and remove the second one. And then we'll go ahead and jump to the top. Bolts have been removed. Let's go ahead and take out the three bolts here at the strut tower. Alright, with a 6-point socket, we're going to go ahead and remove the three tower bolts to release the strut from the tower. And then we're going to go ahead and compress the spring in order to get the spring removed to put on the new strut. We're going to go ahead and start putting on the spring compressors. When you put the spring compressors on, make sure that one side has at least 3 grip down there, and the other side, if you can get all 4 of them on there, would make it a lot easier to compress it, and you wouldn't have to compress it as far down in order to get the spring compression off of it. So you can go ahead and remove the top bolt off your strut and get the spring out. They're pretty easy to put on. As you can see, there's a couple pins on each side. Just put them right over the spring. Push your pins in place, the silver pins there. You push those in place, they lock right in place, and you can go ahead and start tightening them down. And the more you tighten, the farther it compresses the spring, and as soon as they come loose, we'll go ahead. Okay, we've gone ahead and compressed the spring, and we've gotten it down enough where you can see the orange stopper behind it here. I don't know if you can see it very well, but we're going to go ahead and stick a screwdriver behind there and push it down so we can expose the shaft to the strut, the shock itself. And we're going to go ahead and put a pair of grips on it so it will allow us to go ahead and remove the nut that's on the top of the strut tower. Okay, now that we got the strut down on the ground, we got the spring compressors on, we're going to go ahead and expose the strut right in the middle here, where we can put a pair of grip pliers on there and hold it in place, because if you don't hold that in place, the top nut up here will just go ahead and keep spinning because it's attached to that shaft. So we're going to go ahead and pop the plastic cap right off, and we're going to go ahead and put our wrench on there and go ahead and loosen it. Once it loosens, it's no big deal. But make sure that those pliers are on there nice and snug. Otherwise, you're just going to go ahead and defeat the purpose, because you're just going to go ahead and spin anyway. So, as you can see, it comes off pretty easy. We've gone ahead and replaced, put the new spring on the new strut. And we've also attached the new strut mount, and we're going to go ahead and release the spring and put it into place. Okay, we've got the spring back on there. As you can see, the spring seats into its own little well down in here. Make sure that your spring is seated in there before you go ahead and make the installation. Everything is tight. Looks good. We're going to go ahead and replace it. Pretty simple. Everything you did before to take it off, you just reverse the process. We're going to go ahead first and install our 3 bolts up top to hold the tower in place. We're just going to hand snug those for now, and then we're going to go ahead and go down and install the rest of the bolts. Make sure that those all fit correctly before we all go ahead and start tightening everything. Okay, we're going to go ahead and install the lower bolts. Sometimes it could use a little persuasion, so might have to tap it a few times with a sledgehammer to get it in place. Don't need to hit it too hard, just enough to get it to slide in. Once it's slide in, we're going to go ahead and put the main bolt supports on, and should have come with a bracket, your brake line, and all your goodies here. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that gets attached also. Sometimes the bolts are going a little hard, but if you kind of wiggle the strut around a little bit, it'll slide in, and then you can just go ahead and tap the rest of it in. And that one's in. We'll go ahead and put the second one in. Okay, we got the second one going in, and it's usual the second one can sometimes give you a little bit of a hard time in the lower part. So you just have to kind of tap your stuff in a little bit and try to get it as straight as you can, and then just tap it lightly so you don't destroy any threads. Keep going. It's sliding in, so go ahead and keep tapping it in, and as you can see, it slide in pretty easy once you get it pretty even. So those 2 are in. We're going to go ahead and put the nuts on them, and first we're going to install the brake bracket. Then we'll go ahead and put the nuts on.
What's up here?
Alright, both bolts are tight now for the strut. We're going to go ahead and install the brake lines that go on the bracket. And we'll go ahead and install the sway bar link after that. Make sure that you got all your bolts tight. You got one right here. You just tighten that up. And you also have your C-clip for your brake line. Make sure you slide that in there properly behind it. It should hold the line, as you can see. Line won't move, but you need to make sure that you seat it in there correctly. Just tap it in. It's going pretty easy. And the brake line's in. All the connections are made. Everything looks good. Now we're going to go ahead and install the sway bar link just like before. You got a couple bolts, nuts, one up top, one on bottom. We're going to go ahead and tighten those up, and we'll be all done. All we'll have to do is just put the tire back on and put it back down. Hope that helped you out. Hope it was informative, and we'll see you guys next time.